Hey guys, it is Sonnet here. I'm bringing you a guide on how to creep block, so let's get to it. What is creep blocking? Creep blocking is essentially the use of a hero or any other controlled unit, physical barriers essentially, that prevent other units from reaching the destination. So for example, Earthshaker, I can take a skill in Fissure, and this is a physical barrier. I can't walk through it. In the same way, you are yourself a physical barrier, and other unit can't walk through you, with the few exceptions of face boots and whatnot. So, let me demonstrate how this is done. Essentially, the goal behind creep blocking is that you are slower than the creeps, so every time you run into your creeps will stop because they can't pass you. This is the first minute, so you see that unit just right there runs into me and he has to stop. With that little bit of creep blocking, it will push the creeps a little bit back into our turret. And that's essentially all you need. We'll go over the advantages and disadvantages of creep blocking. I'm waiting for the 30 seconds, and I want to demonstrate other ways of doing the same thing. If you want to creep block and you see a space between you and the front creep, we have to see which one is in front. That one's in front. He will run into me, and then you can press S every time you have a lead behind your front creep. It's very important that you know that which one's the front creep. If you don't, then they'll pass you like that. The last method to refining it, which I think is the best but hardest to pull off, is basically making S curves with your character, and it fulfills the same role as the S block. It's just a lot more efficient. So, essentially, I find the first creep and I make S paths, and this will allow me to hug into that creep the most. And we can continue to do this over and over again, and this will push the creeps back. The last method I want to go over for creep blocking is the 3-unit creep block. It's not used very popularly, but it can be a good lane control mechanism. What this essentially does is whenever you meet your creeps, you're going to let one creep get in front. And this one creep will get in front of the other creeps, and he will move a lot faster because he's not obstructed by your 320 movement speed. So the reasons why creep blocking works is essentially, one, you have a big butt, so they can't pass you. The other reason why is because you're slower. So what we can take out of this is that movement speed and hitbox size are the two determining factors for what makes creep blocking doable. Now, there's also a special skill that I can use with Earthshaker. Nature's Prophet is the only one I think that can do this, but essentially, creeps can't walk through physical barriers. So, in the very special case that you want to do this, I can wait for these creeps, I can put down my fissure, and they won't be able to walk through it, and they'll be stuck right there. And this is an extreme form of creep blocking that can be done. Alright, so I've gone over all the little methods of creep blocking. Now let's talk about why you should creep block. Well, for the safe lane, which is essentially the one closest to your turret, you don't actually want to creep block that often. You might want to consider doing the 3-unit creep block, and the reason for that is if your creeps, if one creep is dying the fastest because he's in front and all the creeps are attacking him, that lane is going to push toward your tower as opposed to the enemy's tower. If you creep block the first method, which is essentially blocking all of them, then it's going to run into your turret. The turret will kill the enemy creeps, and it will push toward the enemy side. You may do that. But the disadvantages of that are, first, scouting this area, this jungle area, in the beginning of this section, as of course, you have to realize that if you are creep blocking, you have to stand around here, and that takes away getting possibly this rune, or checking if anybody's coming toward your jungle, in case you have a jungler or somebody is pulling for you. Top lane, you may consider doing that as well, but the disadvantage of that is you can't come here, ward early on, and prevent yourself from losing any experience that they might do from pulling. Additionally, you can't check for runes, so that puts you at a disadvantage. If your enemy has a haste rune or something, you might be zoned out for quite a bit. For mid lane, however, if you creep block, you get a lot of advantages. If you creep block here, and your units are pushed up here, that gives you the high ground advantage. And that's not a feature that other lanes have. You can see that it's all flat. But for the mid lane, you have this height advantage thing. And height advantage is important, especially when you're looking to get an advantage over your opponent at the mid lane. Why? It prevents, first of all, a lot of a harass. So if you're up here, you will get, your opponent will have 25% chance to miss every time they decide to try to harass you. That's first of all good. Second of all, if none of their creeps are up here, and they will meet mostly along this little block line right here, then you can harass them and they won't be able to harass you back. It's also, the same thing applies for these creeps. If you're standing here and you decide to aggro, and these creeps decide to aggro you, they can't see you. So you get a lot less creep hits, and it's overall just a good way to get an advantage over your opponent. So I think that overall goes over the advantages, disadvantages. I know that for some people that pulling these creeps back might put you in a safer zone, but it is not worth it if you have wards or if you are looking to prevent the enemy from getting runes. Let's see. I think I just want to end this video with just saying how much value creep blocking can do for your lane. It can control your lane toward you, it can control your lane away from you. So it is a way to control the lane at the beginning of the game. However, it is a little bit overvalued, and sometimes you'll see people in pubs creep blocking all of it, and you'll see these creeps being pushed toward the tower. No, if you can, just try to get other advantages early on in the game. Creep blocking is not that important. If you know that your opponent is creep blocking and it's going to put you out here as opposed to down here, then yes, you might want to do it. In most cases, it's not going to be that way, though. And they're also looking for those early game advantages. So creep blocking is overrated.